And over my shoulder, you see that I'm kind of tongue-in-cheek, referencing graphically. Remember this? Victory. Not this way, but victory. We don't know yet, right? We're waiting to see. Well, I think there's a lot of things that can relate to challenging the status quo. That's one of our themes today. We're going to talk a little bit about that and setting positive expectations. Making sure that we're constantly, from the moment we're in, looking beyond that moment. Going to talk a little sports because there's a little bit more that's brought up. I got my CSU hoodie on because the Rammies, they won. They brought the boot home. They brought the boot back from Wyoming. Well, actually, it wasn't from Wyoming. Wyoming came down to see us in Fort Collins. But nonetheless, the boot is back. They made their traditional border run, from Wyoming down to the border, Fort Collins up to the border, did the exchange, did the talk, did the posturing, lots of great flags and pageantry honoring those who have fallen before. It's a great, great tradition. For those of you who know the background, this will be redundant for you, but the boot, the bronze boot, that is the trophy between the Wyoming Cowboys and the Colorado State Rams, is about a veteran. And that is that veteran's boot that we're honoring. That was part of our college tradition and our football heritage. We've used it and moved it to a place of prominence, both as a token of the challenge and who wins it, but also remembering the fallen soldiers and honoring those. Because next week on the 11th is Veterans Day. No coincidence that the challenge between University of Wyoming and Colorado State comes very close to Veterans Day. So next week on the 11th is Veterans Day, honoring them. So we're here today talking about that a little bit. And then as we do that, let's take a look at this. Obviously, you if you're looking at the show today versus just listening to us, I've got Abe Lincoln over my right shoulder, looking at a quote that is apropos for this week's activity. The ballot is stronger than the bullet. Now, we haven't had, thankfully, any bullets fly during this voting week. The votes are still being counted. They're being tabulated and retabulated. Like in Georgia, there's a recount because it is so close. As the rules dictate, anything at 0.5% or less between the two candidates, they're going to do a recount. They're doing that now. But that could be moot because the margins of difference in Philadelphia, PA, or in Pennsylvania, not just Philadelphia, but in Pennsylvania, in the county of Philadelphia that Philadelphia's in, could in fact move Joe Biden over the top. As it is, Joe Biden in the 4 states that the incumbent has to have, Biden is ahead. So it's a tough road to hoe. But the quote is very appropriate. Focus on what you can control. You can control your behavior, your actions. Go vote. You did that in record numbers. Both the Republican and the Democratic Party did what they were challenged to do, which is bring the vote out in record numbers. So both candidates are breaking records in how many votes they earned through their efforts and their messaging to their constituents. It's very interesting. So I coined this phrase today. This is my quote. Participation does not mean you are present or should be rewarded for your participation. Just because you were present, POTUS 45, doesn't mean you're going to get rewarded for your participation. In fact, your participation may not be rewarded at all, but because of your presence, those in your party, senators and congresspeople, are in fact rewarded because you got the vote out. It's going to be a very close battle at the Senate level to see who's got control of the Senate. There are two candidates, or a total of 5 actually, that are being looked at because they're so close. They're going to have a revote in Georgia. That's a very interesting thing. So I decided after I coined that phrase about participation and presence, I said I've got to look at for some other quotes, and I found one from one of my favorite politicians, John F. Kennedy. PT 109. If you haven't read that book, please read that. That is a true story of leadership and perseverance and resiliency through very, very tough and challenging times that John F. Kennedy went through as a veteran of World War II. And this is the quote he has about leadership and courage. Effort and courage are not enough without purpose and direction. And I think with what's gone on over the last few months in the election, the electoral process, the voting, just being a citizen of this country and calling yourself an American, this quote should be referenced for you and to you, because the effort you take and the courage you muster to make that effort are not good enough without some form of purpose and direction. And what better purpose and direction than honoring your right as a citizen of the age of majority, 18 and older, to go and vote. You control that. You get to choose. That's a powerful thing. So that's our start for today's show here at 360 Performance every Friday, streaming on KUHSdenver.com. It's great to be here. Great to be part of this process and sharing with you what we're doing, not only on this show, but in our world at large. And it seems appropriate that this slide comes up. It's a horse race, and we're challenging status quo, the status quo of previous administrations, the status quo of sports and sports events based on what they're facing in light of the pandemic. Well, the Breeders' Cup, they were facing some challenges. And I mean, just to have the race alone, I mean, yes, it's outdoors, jockeys, but there's a jockey room, they've got to get weighed, social distancing. So every sport on the planet, no matter whether it's in the United States of America or it's in some other place in the country, they're being challenged. And we're all under the same pressures and challenges and stressors. Pandemic is affecting all of us. Now, with those challenges, there's also some changes in the rules, which is kind of interesting. We've got some rule changes that are happening. Whether it's horse racing or football, or the NFL at large, the seasons have been shortened, so we've got some changes happening with the NFL and how they're going to participate and how they're going to be challenged in addressing their status quo. Just like with the Breeders' Cup here, pictured here, they're being challenged. Well, the NFL is also being challenged. With the shortness of the season, things are happening with regard to playoffs and who might be in the playoffs. Well, they're not going to use division leadership. If you lead the division, you don't necessarily get into the playoffs. So those are the rules that are being looked at right now. Best record does, not division champions, as they've currently sculpted out the rules. Those are some interesting breaks with tradition. In addition to that, a division champion doesn't get in. That removes buys for division champions. So when you get seeded, it's seeded by best record, and there is no, just because you won the division doesn't mean you get a pass on the first round. It's playoffs right from the get-go. That'll make it pretty competitive. Now, interestingly enough, here's what else makes it kind of competitive. Have you noticed about the injuries that are happening? Like, for example, last night, the Green Bay Packers beat up on the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I say it that way, but also knowing the 49ers competed. They did the best they could with the resources at their hands, because they did not have, Jimmy Garoppolo was not there, Nick Bosa wasn't there, Richard Sherman wasn't there, all our key people both offensively and defensively. And one of my favorites, Weston Richburg, wasn't there. Now he's been out for a while, but there's a lot of primary talent that execute every play on every down that wasn't present for the 49ers. Now, I'm not making excuses. I'm pointing out to you that this is part of what's happening in the NFL with what the seasons are facing regarding the pandemic. Training didn't happen the way it normally does. I talked to an athlete the other day in winter sports. They're going to start their winter sports schedule for junior Olympics and USA teams, ski teams, snowboarding teams, in preparation for qualifying for the Olympics. They haven't been on the mountain or been able to be in facilities to help them practice. Typically they get on trampolines, they do different aerial moves to get themselves warmed up. They're able to work on their weights and their aerobics. Not happening. They're now outside, well, they were outside, now the weather's changing, so they're not lifting weights outside anymore. So that's done. So hopefully they'll get enough snow to be able to get on the mountain and practice some of their moves. Well, the athlete I was talking to, she's a mogul skier. They need a lot of snow to create a mogul. So whether it's the NFL or Olympic hopeful skiers or snowboarders, or it's the Breeders' Cup and horse racing, the pandemic affects everybody. Well, here's a good thing. We're getting really creative. Now, some of that creativity, like with the NFL changes for playoffs, not all that accepted by everybody. But nonetheless, we're pushed to the brink to be creative, to develop our insights about how we're going to bring the game to the fans. Now, in many cases, the game has been brought to the fans virtually, and yet that virtual presentation isn't the reason why a lot of people like the sport and like the game. They want to be there. Now, I haven't been keeping up as much as I'd like to about what each individual franchise is doing in their markets about fan participation. I think if you've been watching the NFL coverage through the networks on the weekends, you're seeing that the cardboard cutouts are moving. Now, some of that's because people are actually picking them up and moving them around because there's actually people in the stands. Now, are they going to allow more? And when I say they, I'm not sure who they is. Could be the NFL, could be the networks, could be the franchise. There are different guidelines and rules, and who makes those guidelines and rules up. In some cases, the NFL has no control at all what fans are going to be in the stands because the stadium is owned and guided by the franchise. In other cases, the NFL may have a little bit more leverage. And in either case, I think all parties should be talking with one another. Now, I think they are, but I don't have any confirmation for you on that. Now, whoever is in the stands, let's make sure that we get good participation, safe participation with those fans in the stands. Now, I say that because I've had conversations with college athletic directors and sports information folks, and they're frustrated. I mean, they know what a good presentation is. They've got a package that they want to present, and they know it's entertainment. They're presenting entertainment. Really difficult. Now, on the NFL side of things, for playoffs, that's one set of standards that the sports media, general managers, and head coaches have to deal with. The networks are still doing a great job of framing the field, trying to get as much interaction as they can. I think there's going to be some more creativity coming for the playoffs under whatever definition playoffs wind up being for the NFL. But let's back up to the NCAA. And what are they saying to college teams about brackets and the end of the year and the different conference and league championships that are happening? Will they even have them? Will they be modified? As it stands right now, the Rammies, they won a game against Wyoming this Thursday, but what does that mean as far as their conference? And are they going to, conference eligible? 6 games was a way to, as a kind of a mark as to when you actually get into the chance of being selected for a bowl game, but that's not the case anymore. Bowl games are not. There are teams that we may not play 6 games because they had a game canceled because of COVID. Not because they had COVID necessarily, but maybe it was somebody else. Somebody else who didn't have as good a winning record as you did, but now you didn't even have a chance to play that game. Lots of different factors are coming in with the NCAA and their rulemaking about playoffs and bowl game eligibility. And look at, I'm gonna pause a minute and say to you that here's my opinion. I think that money is going to have a lot to do with what gets played, what doesn't get played, because ultimately the bowl games are about merchandise, about the advertising and sponsorship of those games, with the entertainment value coming from the fans in the stands following their teams. Well, if we have limitations because of COVID, and the 2 teams playing were already going to struggle for getting butts in the seats, not a big draw for money. So more than likely, the larger conferences are going to get catered to again. That's my thought, right? Wait and watch for any rules coming out from the NCAA about bowl game eligibility, conference tournaments. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? I'm just excited to hear about how creative are they going to be. How creative will they get? We'll wait and see. But the NFL is taking the lead to maybe poke a little bit at that creative bubble. So let's talk about another sport. Let's talk about basketball. So who is the best? The NCAA has come out with their list of the best teams that they think are out there. They've got a list of 68 teams that are out there. Let me just give you an idea of who the top 10 are. And that would be the top 5 on the list are Villanova, Gonzaga, Baylor, Illinois, and Virginia. Now, looking back at last year and how those teams finished the season and what kind of a roster do they have going in, I don't have a lot of disagreement with that. But as I say that, in compliance with their statement of those 5 leading out the top 10, it's a crapshoot. It's a roll of the dice. I mean, yeah, you can justify because of what those teams did last year, but, and I have to be a little biased here, I'm a little happier. I'm happy that the number 9 team of the top 10 is Iowa, but they also have a stacked roster. But here's what's going on. Here's what's going to be really interesting. Watching those top 10 teams, let me just round it out for you. So it's Villanova, Gonzaga, Baylor, Illinois, Virginia, Kansas, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Kentucky. I'm sure there's somebody out there going, where's Kansas? Kansas, anybody? Where's Toto? Kansas isn't there. They probably shouldn't be. But you'll get some arguments, right? Now here's my point here. Going back to what I said to you about the injury-laden NFL teams, they're struggling because they didn't have the time to train the way they normally would. So we're going to have a little higher degree of probability with regard to injury. In particular, soft tissue industry, injuries, ankle sprains, wrists, elbows, shoulders, things getting stretched beyond their capacity but not really becoming an injury. They're hurt. Maybe it's a delay. So you're going to have more players that are going to be evaluated as to capability of playing in a given day. Now, on the extreme side of things, those stretches, if a player pushes it the next game, because they need bodies on the field, they actually get hurt. It's actually an injury, not just a boo-boo. And the same thing is going to happen with colleges. Their campuses have been limited. Getting into facilities has been shortened as far as the amount of time. Heck, just getting seen by trainers is a test of the facilities planning processes, testing processes. I'm going to say this again. When I interviewed Joe Parker from CSU, the athletic director there, I'm extremely proud to be an alumni of Colorado State University because of the way they've handled their strategy and methods for COVID. They're doing some great things and being supported by community departments at large. They're talking to each other. So how can you know who's going to be on the top 10? There's so many factors that influence the quality of their performance, and they haven't even performed yet. But I know that the training that's going into preparing these young people, and by the way, I have to point this out, the NCAA list of the top 10, and they've ranked all 68, but the top 10, as I listed out for you, is the men's team only. Where is the women's team? They deserve equal press as to who's on top. But in either case, women or men in the sports, how can you know who's the best? In fact, if it's based on last year, I would ask you to ask questions about and follow how well the teams are preparing, how much practice time they're getting, because every institution has been affected to a different degree than anybody else. Like, for example, Iowa. I'm an alumni, undergraduate alumni, played sports there at Iowa. That state's getting hit hard. They're on the they're probably being reevaluated. Every college and every campus, just like the businesses and families, are being evaluated as to what do we do? Do we mandate masks? Who knows? We just came out of an election year. Not a lot of decisions going to be made at the senator or congressperson level. Maybe state politics will be a little different in getting off the dime and making some decisions. Public health is going to be influenced. I'm guessing that some people are taking a vacation this week just because of all the activity that's going on. But we can't do that. We shouldn't do that. Sports teams want to know, can I go in the gym? Can I practice? What's the protocol for me being able to see the trainers? Go into a whirlpool and get some therapy so I can be ready to play. Recover from my bumps and bruises. If I even had a practice that gave me bumps and bruises. There are some of the NCAA football programs that aren't even comfortable with getting hit. I contend strategies are like this. If you can get their mental attitude, their mindset up to a place where they're the attackers, you're going to have an advantage, because some of these teams haven't been put into pads. They haven't been hit much. So if it's the basketball program trying to assess who's the top 10 in the country before we even start the season, we've got probably another couple of weeks before we start the season full blown. Because some programs' preseason schedule is gone. It's conference only. And yet, that might change. It's been very creative. Just take you back to the football stuff. Big Ten, Pac-12, they were out, right? Oh, but hold on a minute. Then things got better. And they said, no, we're jumping in it. And then all of a sudden, we made a mistake, didn't monitor the behavior well enough. And all of a sudden we had parties. And kids were going on, and we didn't manage the behavior. And we spiked again. Delays in starts. I'm not even sure we're going to have some conferences, and their teams will have even 9 games they'll play. How does that impact bowl eligible, or even if we'll have a bowl? I had a bowl this morning, my favorite cereal. But that's not the bowl I'm talking about. So how do you really know? How do you really know? So the preseason competition is a measuring stick that football, well, and basketball for that matter too, you play non-conference games, right? To get yourself kind of warmed up. Get that competitive juices flowing. Take a good solid hit from a number 4-star, number 5-star player. See if you can take it. You can't take the truth. Oh, I digress. But preseason competition is important for qualifying the talent pool. So how do you really know who the top 10 are? I don't really care, actually. I'm kind of jazzed about the unknown. Who's going to step up? What coaches are going to have the style, as I've got pictured over my shoulder, the style to get their teams ready to go? Because a lot of this is mental. It's emotional. Your mindset is going to drive what you can expect from yourself. And then will you deliver? And if you're challenged at all, as I said earlier, coaches, get them out there, get their mindset going, and challenge the other team. Right, wrong, or indifferent. See if the other team can handle it. If they can't, rock on. Score. Defend. Turnovers. All those things that you look at your books and say, we've got to have more turnover, higher turnover ratio. Cause turnovers. Get the other team to cough it up. We'll have an offense through our defense, right? All good stuff. And that was epitomized last night on the pro level of football with Aaron Rodgers. This is always interesting to me. Here's the factors. Why did the Packers win? Aaron Rodgers. He did it. He performed. Didn't turn the ball over. Duh. And they scored, they converted turnovers from San Francisco. And they didn't commit a lot of penalties. So they used their brain, they executed. So why do you think that the 49ers lost? Is it obvious to you? Come on, you can do this. It's obvious. Don't turn the ball over. Score. Take your opportunities and make sure it gets done. And too many injuries, which means there weren't enough seasoned players on the field. They had to rely on rookies and people who didn't have reps. If they were experienced veterans, they probably hadn't had a lot of reps. They got hit. Oh, hadn't felt that before. Oh, went through a couple of plays getting hit pretty hard by the Green Bay Packers. And then we finally got kind of acclimated, but it was too late. 34-17 was the score. And the 17 points, 14 of them came to the 49ers in the fourth quarter. So the Green Bay Packers were already at 34-3 for a good portion of the second half. But the 49ers competed. With what they had, they competed. So from basketball, coming back to basketball after that example of you got to compete. You got to challenge, regardless of what level of talent you have on the field. In the NCAA basketball, everybody's talented. Haven't played a game yet, so we're not injured yet. We're not hurt. But will your efforts get us to a Final Four? I don't know. Let's go back to college football. What bowl games will we have? How satisfied will a senior this year be with their football career if they don't even get a chance because they take all the bowls away and only have a limited amount of bowls for those high visibility teams in conferences like the SEC, Pac-12, Big Ten, ACC, just pick your favorite big conference. Will you get recruited? What's going to happen in January and February? Will there be a Senior Bowl? Will there be a North, South, East, West Shrine? Will there be a Shrine Bowl? I don't know. NCAA hasn't come out and give us any kind of opinion or guidance. Wow, I'm going to take a breath. It's an interesting world we live in right now. I like the fact that we're being challenged to be creative, but not without some focus on guidelines and rules. Leaders step up, make it happen. I'm hoping it will happen for those leaders to get out there and present themselves. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on coming up in the future for 360 Performance. Next week, we're going to bring you some really interesting talent from around the country to be on the show with me. I'm going to surprise you with it on Monday and Tuesday to let you know who they are. But suffice it to say, they are some professional talent in the field of sports. And then we're gonna talk a little bit about some good causes. We're going to talk about on the 20th of this month. We're going to talk with Jeff about men's issues, issues about handling the sufferings of disease and how to. And it sounds kind of bad, but we're going to be uplifting about it and look for people to grow their mustaches in support of some great causes for men's health. So we're going to talk to Jeff, a representative of Good Men's Health. Movember is what it's going to be called. It's Movember. We're going to talk a little bit more about that and give you some details about that. That's on the 20th of this month. As I say that, I'm also reminded that we're going to bring nurse practitioner back. Amy Morin will come back and visit with us in latter part after Thanksgiving and talk to us about health and wellness and strategies for the home in staying healthy. And also talk about the connection of those health strategies with nutritional. I had a great conversation this morning with one of my clients about how nutrition can be one of the best supplements you can ever have. Meaning what you put in your body, what you eat, is better than any supplement because it gets in your system very quickly. So zinc to force off those inflammations and help give you some support with your immune system and make sure that you're ready and prepared for whatever may come, be it flu, COVID, God forbid, I hope not, but the flu and what have you. Also some advice from me to you. We'll talk more about it later. I got my flu shot. A flu shot, I don't typically get a flu shot, but with, I'm growing older. Can you believe it? And one of those things I thought about was, getting a flu shot, getting a pneumonia shot. Well, I gutted it out, and the nurse, she asked me, said, well, would you like the shots in both arms? And I said, sure, not a problem, not a problem. With me, I'm fine with needles. Well, interestingly enough, you take both of those shots in the same arm, things get a little sore. Yeah. And I learned that maybe you should put one in each arm because you could get an over-concentration of the inoculants. And I got a little reaction. Not bad. 24 hours, in and out, But there was some, shaking and shimmying. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how you can avoid any, not really adverse reactions where it was like you getting elongated symptoms, but that next 24 hours after a flu shot or a pneumonia shot, if you're going to get them, anybody over the age of 60 might be thinking about pneumonia and flu shots together. I got some strategies for you, how to take care of that, so that you can diminish the impact of flu symptoms. Not fun, just not fun. But got through it. Had some good reports after the fact. Scared the living bejesus out of my wife, though. She didn't know what was going on. So there you have it. Little heads up for what's coming up in the weeks to come. And the months to come. It's interesting to me what the weather and its influences on us. Make sure that we're not afraid of cold. Being bundled up, staying dry is probably more important any place in the country that has cold weather. But make sure that you are staying dry, but layers. Too hot, many times too hot promotes a disease state, so make sure you're managing your thermostats at home. You don't want it too hot or too cold, but around that 68 to 72 degree range, depending on what your tolerances are, and then just put on a sweater. But keeping some coolness also keeps disease and the viral things away as well. Too warm can sometimes promote disease states, so stay on top of that. Well, I've got some more sports news for you, but I want to make sure that I don't confuse you with this next slide. It's about integrity and staying true to yourself. What is your truth? And here's one of my favorite baseball strategists, Alex Cora. He seems to be in the running for the Red Sox job again. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. He's in the final two for the Red Sox manager's search. Sorry about that, folks. So stay tuned for that. But here's why I brought up Alex Cora, because he's suffered with some really tough stuff. He had a suspension for a while. It was a very interesting time for Alex and what he was going through. And I want to just bring that up as a lead-in to the concepts I want to share with you. And those concepts are more about positive expectations, because to get through the stuff that Cora has gone through in the last few weeks is not easy to do if you don't have some positive expectations. You've got to think about what your future looks like to get through the kind of issues he faced. And it was a legit suspension, no argument from Cora on this, but at the same time, you've got to remember what brought you to the dance. Cora is a sharp mind in baseball, and it's important to remember that. And Cora is in the running for that spot with the Red Sox. Also, I should point out to you, there's some really great stuff happening in baseball around the country. In 2021, it's going to be a really interesting year, not only for getting maybe back to a more routine schedule with baseball, but also realizing that Major League Baseball wants to add 2 more teams to their list of 30, and so that we have 32 teams. And there's a lot of activity in Nashville. In fact, to the point where it's just a matter of in November of 2021, Major League Baseball will vote on accepting a new team to be located in Nashville, Tennessee. The Music City Baseball is a both amateur and now a committee to bring a professional team to Nashville that includes people like Tony La Russa and Justin Timberlake, of all people. Justin Timberlake is not more than just a casual fan of baseball and basketball, but being a Tennessee native from Memphis, Tennessee, he's participating on that committee to guide the group to getting a team in Nashville. It's just interesting, and Tony La Russa, just some really exciting things. Tony La Russa has been brought back to managing. He's back, or he's with the White Sox. That was a new hire. A.J. Hinch was hired with the Tigers, and we'll wait and see what happens with Cora as it moves forward. But you've got to have positive expectations. You've got to have that to be able to speak and act with a sense of integrity. Projecting those expectations, sharing expectations with others is important to maintaining your sense of integrity as a coach or a player. Now, this is going to sound contradictory, because earlier I talked about the quality of the preparation of NFL football teams. Obviously, injuries are rampant through the teams. Some teams are handling it better than others, like Green Bay Packers. Obviously, their teams are not injury-free, but they're probably more hurt than they are injured, and yet they're executing. They beat the San Francisco 49ers, 34-17. So quality preparation is a big deal when you're trying to maintain your integrity. And I'm hoping the 49ers come around, because they've got some players that are going to be coming back here soon in week 8, 9, and 10. And if they do, and they can execute, you're going to see some results of quality preparation. I'll use an example of Weston Richburg again. He's been out for several weeks, but he's been prepping. He's been able to get back into the gym, get into the weights, do some, and during practices execute without pads on, but I guess that's the key thing for me, is if the football players are not able to get their pads back on, that's going to be a challenge on how quickly they actually are able to execute it at the highest level. So quality preparation is a key characteristic for maintaining your integrity as a professional, and a professional that is optimizing their performance at the highest level. Now, the next thing is, I call it my Pillsbury Doughboy test, where you poke him and he giggles, and he responds back. That's resiliency. You get poked, you get punched, you get knocked down. It's how well you can take that punch and get back. There's a famous Rocky quote. I won't even try to say it, but that's what it basically, Rocky, in the movie, when he was talking to his grown adult son, he was talking about, it's not whether you can take the hit, it's whether you can get up from the hit, how quickly you get up from the hit when you get hit hard, and you come back and get hit again. That's adjusting and adapting. And I'm going to add the mental side, the cognitive side of that. If we haven't prepared well, if the quality of our preparation isn't as high as we would have liked it to be, now it comes down to your mental. Because mental preparation, you could do that constantly. Walking down the street, getting in a position meeting and talking to your coaches, all of those experiences help you with your cognitive processes and whether or not you're going to be able to adjust and adapt quickly. Because the Pillsbury Doughboy principle is about engaging your brain and your mind first, so that even if your body is kind of beat up, you're still there. You're still able to deliver. Now, as I say that, I want to make sure I emphasize this last point, because remember, we've got the COVID. COVID is here, so safety for all is important. So in order to give yourself a chance to be able to be in a position to adapt and adjust, you got to come to the table well prepared and adjusting to what COVID has presented us. Wear a mask. Put your mask on when you're supposed to. But when you're in the studio like I am, I got nobody around here. We distance, social distance. Washing your hands, protecting yourself with the necessary germicides and disinfectants that you need. See, I almost slipped up there. Insecticide. No, not an insecticide. Not cleansers injected. I'm not going to do that. Not going to go there. But keep things clean. Henry here, we are in a great studio. KUHS, streaming every day, all day. That's one thing, but we also keep this clean. We are protecting the studio and the people that enter the studio and making sure we keep a safe environment for all. So do those things, because that will add to your integrity. That will create you as an example for others in making sure that you're doing what you need to do. Now, that's an interesting concept, but not everybody's playing it out. I don't want to see any county in any state going backwards. And here's the deal. We don't have to go backwards, because we're in control of our own behavior. I want to see kids playing, of whatever age the kids are, however old they are. I want to see you out there playing and competing. But that's going to get taken away from you or diminished to a level that the quality doesn't represent your effort. So let's wear the mask. Let's get out there and maintain the integrity of being someone like Alex Cora, who's been challenged, but he's coming back. And he's a talent that deserves to come back, especially if he maintains positive expectations, a quality in his preparation. He's able to then demonstrate his ability to adjust and adapt through all the challenges. And yet he's doing it in a way that's safe for everybody he comes in contact with. Integrity. Talk to the hand. That's why I put it up there. Talk to the hand. We're having a great day. It's a Friday. Every Friday, 11 o'clock, right here, streaming on KUHSdenver.com. I'm your host, Lowell Whiteman, coach on 360 Performance. If you have a question, you have a comment, take a look at my website, 360 Mindset. That's 360mindset.com. Make a comment. send me your thoughts and help us deliver the messages so that the truth be told. Truth be told. I've asked this question several times over the last month or so. Where do you find your truth? I mean, I've been amazed at how many people, they hear something or they see something, maybe both. In some cases, it's one or the other. They see it, it's truth. Hey, I saw it. It's right there. It's truth. Some people hear it because of who told it to you. The person that spoke, I heard them. It's truth. But you didn't do anything to test it. Test the status quo. Why would you take what you see or what you hear or both of them together on first blush and go, absolutely, it's the truth? Honesty is different than truth. Honesty is someone telling me something I need to hear. Not necessarily I want to hear it. I need to hear it. And because we have a good relationship, a trusting relationship, they will be honest with me. Truth be told. Which is why what my grandpa told me, believing half of what I see and none of what I hear, so said my gramps. I see the typo. Don't go there. I know it's not S-E-N-D. I can play it off and disguise it, but I should have spelled it properly. S-A-I-D, said my gramps. But my gramps is dead, so he could be sending it to me. I'm listening. But regardless of where you're at with that phrase and how you take it in for yourself, what's important to me is how do we filter out the untruth? I want to, if I've developed trust with somebody, I want to be able to listen to what they have to say to me and receive it as truth. Because the relationship I developed was one of honesty. That I don't want a yes man, a yes person. I want somebody to tell me what I need to hear because it makes me better. It keeps me safe. So how do you filter out the untruth? Now, in the next few days, maybe the next few weeks, there's going to be a lot of filtering going on, truth be told. And I'm not sure where it's going to fall. Who knows? If everything goes to hell in a handbasket, there could be somebody else as number 46. POTUS 46 may not be the person the trending is going towards right now. I think it will be what's expected. But there are some people that are filtering the truth and testing the truth and are saying that we should have stopped counting. Well, if I put my vote in, it damn well better get counted. Now, I appreciate your tolerance with me intermixing some of what's happening politically with my take on performance issues in sports and the sports integrity that needs to be there for athletes and teams to demonstrate their quality, just like Alex Cora and others that are challenged. There are some interesting challenges out there. University of Iowa football team, they've had some challenges. Coach Ferentz has had some challenges. The state of Iowa has some challenges. There are many other states. Wisconsin is another one. North Dakota. I have friends in North Dakota that are having to stay in their homes because of what's going on in their state and their health. Their kids have to face not being able to play a sport that they love. Do you realize that in states like North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, there are kids that are 3- and 4-sport athletes? And now we're asking them to not do that. You can't do that. We're going to take it away from you. And what's interesting, too, is those athletes in those states are also outstanding students. They're very disciplined young people. I don't know what I would say if I was the athletic director in Jamestown, North Dakota. It would break my heart to have to say to a student athlete, guess what? You don't get to play football for the rest of the season. All you can do is hunker down with your books and hang out at home with a mask on. And only part-time, maybe 2 days out of the week, do you get to come to school and see your friends. I tell you what, the phone, your iPad, your internet account, whatever you use, Skype, FaceTime, whatever it might be, is probably getting kind of old by now. Therein lies the challenge. I said earlier I was talking to a young athlete, a 17-year-old female athlete, a skier, a mogul skier that I've been honored to be able to work with. She tells me their schedule for their season, instead of it being 3 months, it's one, maybe one in a couple of weeks. But the month of January is packed, so that every weekend there's going to be a comp, short for competition. And what's interesting, they're still going to be subject to any changes in the health conditions, what public health might be saying in those communities. So that Copper Mountain, Aspen, Breckenridge, Steamboat, whatever town it is that they're going to have this competition, it's not going to be just about a matter of snow and coverage and having a good base. It's also going to be about whether or not you can even be on the mountain without wearing a mask. It's different. It's a challenge. It tests the resiliency of the athlete. That's what I do. That's why we're here at 360 Performance every Friday at 11 a.m. streaming on KUHSdenver.com so that you can find out information about how to handle those situations and not be surprised. You have integrity. We provide you with integrity because we are providing positive reinforcement and expectations, giving you some preparation of a quality nature so that you can adapt and adjust, but be safe. Don't be stubborn. Put the mask on. Make it happen. But how long will it last? I don't care. Here's the coach. I don't care. Get out there, mask up, do your job, make things happen on your field of competition, whatever it might be, whatever mountain it might be. My first comment to this young woman, I said, do you want to ski? Do you want to compete? Not even a hesitation. Absolutely. But the realization is, from me to her, is we've got to prepare differently. Quality of our preparation has changed. Not because we chose it, it's because of the conditions. And every athlete that's out there has the same conditions. They may not prepare the same, but they have the same conditions. So my biggest challenge is not just answering that question, how long will the mask last, but just mask up. Mask up, grab a hold of it, wrap your arms around it, take control of it, because you can. And then when you get to the mountain, when you get to the court, when you get to the field, you're ready to go. You take the mask off in the areas that you're allowed to, and you produce results. You perform. Knowing that you may not have had enough physical prep time. And that, oh, that first bump, oh, that first hit, that first hard turn in the icy snow, you absorbed it, you felt it, you dealt with it, you moved on. That's what we're all about. Making it happen. Every single moment you have the opportunity to compete. The question still remains, how long will it last? Well, here's some scientific input for you. The more of us that wear the masks, the more of us that adjust and adapt to the conditions we have, the sooner we'll get to take the mask off and not wear it at all. Because we will have worn the mask, protected ourselves so that the scientist can get us an inoculant, an injection that will help us be able to get back to a world that will allow us to prepare even better, even stronger, and utilize the creativity that we had to come up with during this time. But that's not going to be lost, because when we're back, and we've got the therapies along with the inoculants and the injections to help combat COVID, we will have learned from our mistakes, and we will have worn the mask, washed our hands, socially distanced, and been aware of our environment instead of being stubborn. Another phrase from my grandfather: the jackass doesn't get through the door by itself, because jackasses are stubborn. We've got a lot of stubborn people out there that need our guidance to have confidence to get through the door with the mask on, socially distanced, washing our hands. The jackass doesn't get through the barn door by itself. I have to giggle. It just reminds me of my grandpa. Every week we're here streaming KUHS Denver and 360 Performance, bringing you insights about what are methods and strategies to deliver your best. If you have a question, if you have a comment, send it through to kuhsdenver.com or check out 360performance.com. That's 360performance. Sorry, wipe that, back up, did a Willy Wonka here. 360mindset.com for our website to give us your thoughts about 360 Performance every Friday at 11 a.m. I want to give a shout out to some of my colleagues here at KUHS Denver, Nikki Burnett and her show. Great stuff on nutritional stuff. I've referenced Nikki this morning, one of my clients, and I want to end the show today with a nutritional note as we come up to our last couple of minutes, our last 120 seconds of time here in the show. Make sure you're eating those foods that promote zinc, copper, and magnesium. Elderberry is great for anti-inflammatories. Make sure you're adding those foods into your diet, into your nutritional plan every week, every day. That's going to help protect you and keep you safe. Because look, you still may get a little bug here or there, a sniffle, a cough, maybe, God forbid, I hope you don't get a fever. But if it does, it'll be manageable because you're paying attention to those strategies that make it better for you. Every Thursday, take a look at Nikki Burnett and her show here at KUHSdenver.com. And always take a look at Ignite. And Sylvia, oh my gosh, that lady is doing some great things with keeping herself in shape. I would have loved to have been an athlete, because she's got a mindset and a discipline to always deliver the highest quality imagery that she can. She is just gorgeous in her show every Sunday. Check it out here at KUHS. Well, that's as much time as I have for you today. I'm so glad to be here with you. Hey, have a great, great weekend. Be safe. And in Colorado, prepare to get warm. We're going to get some weather, right? Today's our last day of 70s, that wonderful fall weather we have here. Have a great day today, everybody. Take care.